Peterborough's community radio station, Salaam Radio, 106.2 FM.
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. You are listening to Let's Talk Live on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM, online at www. Do you know what? Every time I say that, it always catches me out. So I'm just going to say salamradio.co.uk and live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. You know what's going to happen, don't you? They're gonna use this in a short.
Yep.
And they're going to put it on YouTube, and I'm just going to be laughing at myself. I'm Akeel, joined by Ishvak, and tonight we are discussing two stories that may appear very different, but both raise a serious question about power, accountability, and justice. First, Grenfell. According to a report in The Guardian, Arconic, the company behind the cladding panels found by the inquiry to be a primary cause of the rapid spread of the Grenfell Tower fire, paid more in compensation to shareholders than to the estates of victims and survivors. The Guardian reported that shareholders received £54.7 million, while victims, estates and survivors received around £31.8 million after a lengthy legal battle. That is a difficult story to hear. Now, Grenfell was not just a fire, it was a national failure. 72 people died. Families were destroyed, a community was traumatized, and tonight we ask, when disaster happens, does the system value financial loss more quickly than human loss? And then after that, we turn to Pakistan. According to AP, Pakistan's Supreme Court ordered the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan to be taken to Shifa International Hospital for a medical examination following months of concerns from his family and personal doctors about his health and access to care. AP later reported that Khan was taken for examination and returned to prison, while his family and party disputed how the court order was carried out. Again, this is not just about one man's hospital visit, it's about courts, governments, prisons, political trust, and whether the law is seen to apply clearly and fairly. Tonight, we will be serious and factual, but we will be fair and we will ask the hard questions. Ofcom rules require due partiality and due accuracy, and in current affairs discussions on matters of political controversy and public policy. So we will separate fact, allegation, official claim and opinion as clearly as possible. So you can call us on 01733 602 133, or you can text the show on 07411 191062, or comment on the live streams. But please make the contributions respectful and factual. Last week, I know the topic was very sensitive, and we were getting, shall we say, a very colourful amount of messages and types of messages coming through. So please, tonight, be respectful and factual, and let me know your thoughts. So I want to start with a shared theme tonight then, Ishvak. Grenfell is about Britain, Imran Khan is about Pakistan, but both stories force us to ask a similar question. When ordinary people look at institutions, courts, governments, companies, regulators, prisons, police, inquiries, do they see justice being done? Not just a slogan, not just a press release, not just justice delayed until public anger fades, real justice. The kind of justice where people can say, yes, the powerful were held to account. Yes, victims were treated with dignity. Yes, the rules applied fairly. And that is why tonight's discussion matters, because people trust does not collapse overnight. It collapses when people repeatedly feel the system protects the powerful first and ask the ordinary people to wait. So let's begin with Grenfell, Ishvak. According to The Guardian, a new investigation by Commonwealth and the Financial Investigations Group found that Arconic paid $74 million, around £54.7 million, to shareholders for economic loss and the Grenfell disaster. In contrast, according to the same report, the company paid $43 million, around £31.8 million, to the estates of victims and survivors. The Guardian also reported that across both payouts, all but $2 million was covered by Arconic's insurers. Now let me be careful here. Arconic has repeatedly denied wrongdoing, and according to The Guardian, no criminal damages or charges, have yet been brought against individuals or companies in relation to the fire, which I find stunning, by the way, Ishvak. So tonight, we are not declaring guilt, we're just asking a moral question. So I'm going to put it to you. If a company linked to a disaster can settle shareholder losses more generously than victim and survivor claims, what does that say about the legal and corporate system?
I will say to you that it's sickening, it's heartbreaking, and there is a level of mistrust. Unlike 20, 30 years ago, now with social media, with the news is at the fingertips of people, information is at the fingertips. So people are not naive to it anymore. Companies can try and hide away this stuff, put it in an envelope, seal it away, but the information is out there, and people, when they see it, when they hear it, it is disheartening, heartbreaking, and it builds that level of mistrust for the establishment, for the level of law, you could say, and it does ask the question about the levels of corruption.
Yeah, I hear you, and from a moral perspective, then, when you hear, I mentioned, we looked at this during the week, and I mentioned it again tonight. You've been part of companies and boards and things like that, but when you saw what happened at Grenfell, didn't you? You saw how the fire went up and the people were jumping out and the firefighters, they couldn't help them, all this. And then we've seen this lengthy court battle. And then we see this from a moral perspective, seeing the compensation more for those shareholders than the victims. You're right, it's sickening, but it asks the question, what is happening in society?
It's all about money at the end of the day. It seems like everything boils down to money. I was looking into this briefly today, and I tell you what else I was shocked at, and I'm not going to detract from it. Morally, it seems corrupt.
Yeah.
Morally, it seems wrong. Those victims and those families that have lost people, they can't put a value on that. They can't put a price on it. But then to know that shareholders of a company seen or deemed as responsible by those victims seem to benefit or profit or get money for that disaster is in itself a big wrong, and that's on their conscience. But legally, there needs to be more done. But we're talking about legal standings in this country and the process of law. But at the same time, there's been laws established after Grenfell happened, to check the building regulations, the safety regulations, buildings more than 11 stories having two stairwells, etc. So there's been a lot every year being brought in, but yet there's at that time 5,000 or so, just under 5,000 buildings that were looked at and deemed to be unsafe with this unsafe flammable cladding. Only I think 800 or less than a quarter, have actually had work done to them to make them safe, which means that there's probably near enough 3,000 to 4,000 that are still unsafe and had nothing done. And we're talking how many years after?
Yeah.
Right? And for that disaster to happen. So the question then comes down to, again, is it money? Is that more important than the lives of those people? And some of those people that live in these high-rise flats can't afford to move or to buy other accommodation, or because of the standing of that building, because of the cladding, they can't move.
Yeah.
No one's going to buy the flat, or no one's going to rent that flat, or they're tied into a contract. There's 101 different reasons why they're trapped in there almost. So that's another risk. I mean, I wouldn't want my family to be there.
Yeah, it's interesting you said, actually, because I'm thinking back when this happened and then the preceding years after that. You have hit the nail on the head. There are so many people who cannot sell their property because of this, because of cladding.
And insurance. That's stunning. I'm just going back a bit. So, talking about the actual disaster itself. So, 72 people died. People were trapped. Families waited for news. Children lost parents. Parents lost children. And the whole community was left with grief, trauma, and unanswered questions. I can tell you, I go to London quite frequently. And you do go past it, and you see it's covered up and it says Grenfell on it. Anyone who saw that happening, do you remember it was being beamed 24/7 on the news networks around the world? But I remember, watching this as it happened. Then on top of that, you have the injustice that the victims and survivors have been reporting. They've got the different groups that they've set up who've said that they're not getting the correct type of justice they've been seeking, and this is definitely a kick in the stomach, isn't it? When years later you find that shareholders have been paid more money, and I think, and you just mentioned, there's a breakdown in trust, but moreover than that is the compensation process just blows my mind, that it, and to the point where it asks one devastating question, which is the system better designed to protect the financial interest in human beings? Personally, at the moment, if you ask me, I would say yes.
Yeah.
That's the way it seems.
Yeah.
It's all about the banks, it's about the money, and the system is orchestrated in that way. We had a disaster in this, just to detract. I mean, I've been talking to a family locally that suffered a loss of life due to a disaster in a factory, due to a fire, a big fire. While that process went on, that company was then able to reopen under a different name. They were found to be liable, fined up to £250,000. And what happened? The company closed down and opened up, doing the same thing, operating in the same way, in the same place, under a different name. And that family, 8 years later, lost a relative and a young man, and they have no recourse for justice, no financial, not that they wanted financial, but basically the company didn't have to pay anything out, didn't lose anything in a way. They have to reissue contracts for them employees and whatever, and set up new, names for banks, etc. And that's about it. So maybe it cost them £20,000-30,000 to do the clerical stuff. But apart from that, the family were left holding the can, a loss of life, and they were waiting for the justice system to roll into place to say, right, they've been made liable, they're going to now pay this, and your due process starts here, and here's your bit of money for your loss. But guess what? That never happened to them. And I'm talking about a Peterborough family. So that's one family, one disaster. When you look at that in a bigger scope with Grenfell, the only reason I would say even some of those people got paid out was because of the public outcry, because it was in the media, and because of the great loss that and the media storm that created. I reckon that's one of the reasons why it was maybe some reason why the families got paid out. But at the same time, like you said, the partners or investors being paid out more than the families. It's just, where's the moral compass going in this country?
It's just gone, isn't it? Look, according to The Guardian, the report's author said that the findings showed a near total failure of legal mechanisms to hold corporations accountable. The Guardian also reported that Grenfell United, which is representing the bereaved families and survivors, said corporate structures and legal systems had allowed those responsible to move on while the community continued to live with the consequences. It's exactly what you've just said about the local family. Yeah. It's exactly the same.
Change your name, change the liabilities, and off you go.
Why is it so easy to do that? Like, for example, like you just said, a major disasters happen, whether it's Grenfell or this local family, and there's nothing in place. I know you can be suspended and barred as a director of a company depending on what you've done, but like you just said, you can literally have your subordinate set up the company for you and just carry on.
There's so many loopholes. They could even set up a company abroad and say this is a subsidiary operating here. There's so many loopholes, unfortunately, and the people that are the most vulnerable are always ones left holding the can.
And like you said as well, those people are the ones holding the can, waiting for justice because they're doing everything correctly. You have to think to yourself, look, if that was your son, or if it was your husband or your father, who Ishvak just articulated about, how would you feel? Let us know. Call the show on 01733 602133. You can text the show on 074 111 or you can comment on our live streams. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you want to share some of your thoughts about Grenfell. What do you think about this disaster situation where the investors are being paid out more than the bereaved families? It's just staggering. But what does compensation actually mean after a disaster like Grenfell? Can money ever reflect the loss of 72 people? And why is financial loss easier to process than human loss? Well, we must be careful. Compensation processes are complex. Civil claims, shareholder claims, insurance, corporate law, criminal investigations all operate differently. But for ordinary people, the moral question is simple. Was justice done? And was it seen to be done? And in this case, we're going to say, we feel, how can it be?
When there's a loss of life, no amount of money can replace that. And that will never lead to justice. Justice, I could have sat here and said to you, there's a bit of justice because now going forward, those that loss of life that occurred because of Grenfell has led to so many other lives being saved. Because look, all these buildings now have been refurbished, changed, to protect life going forward. Yes, laws have been brought into place, but I think sometimes laws are brought into place to protect the establishment more so. Or we've, as a politician, say we did that, we've tick boxed it, so we're okay. We did the bit that we had to do. But it doesn't actually make that big difference, as in the proof that there's so many buildings out there that still remain with dangerous cladding. So has justice been done? Simple answer, no.
No, I agree with you. The Guardian report also says that the Commonwealth and Find investigation calls for stronger corporate accountability laws in England and Wales. But according to the article, recommendations included making punitive damages available in cases where corporate illegally is implicated in death, allowing courts to direct part of shareholder settlement recoveries towards the victim funds where third-party harm is identified. Now, that's quite interesting, isn't it? So in many ways, that makes complete sense.
It makes it's a more sensible system, and it sounds like we were just talking about morally correct system.
Yeah.
So if I'm a partner in a company and that's caused the death of someone, I should be losing some of that money towards and making sure that those victims are compensated in the right manner.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that punitive damages are not just about compensating someone for loss, like Ishvak's saying. They're about punishment, and I think the key one here is deterrence, isn't it? It's like, if you do something like this, if you operate like this, if you're trying to cut corners, if you're using substandard, materials or whatever it is that you're doing, there's going to be a punishment for you as an individual or your company.
Well, one thing that has come in that I read up on, which I agree with, so now there is a named person who is liable for a specific building. So these buildings we were talking about that still remain, there are people that are liable. So one person will be named as being liable rather than a company, and so maybe they're within that company, but they will be liable. So if anything like that does happen again, that one person will be carrying that can and be blamed for it.
So are you saying then in many ways that is am I right in thinking that would be like corporate manslaughter and be on that one person's head?
Well, you'd hope that it's a bit more than just that one person, in the sense of it's a person associated to that company. But they will be the ones that will be held to answer, should I say, for the company.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. When corporate conduct is linked to catastrophic harm, should the law only compensate or should it punish in a way that changes behaviour? Let me know, 01733602133. Text the show on 07411191062. Because if the financial consequence of a disaster is mostly handled by insurance, where is the deterrent? Look, if the price of failure is simply absorbed as a business cost, then the system has not delivered accountability at all. It has processed tragedy through paperwork. It's just the way it is. It's as simple as that, isn't it? When you look at this at 30,000 feet up, there is no accountability. It is literally, like you just mentioned, tick box exercise. So I'll put it to you, Ishvak. Should Britain have a tougher corporate accountability laws after Grenfell?
I think so. Not just for that. There's so many examples. I mean, it has to go through Parliament and law. The lawmakers have to look at it, and policies have to be put into place. So it's not one of those things that's just going to happen overnight. But at the same time, the UK wants to attract business. There's people that are going to Dubai, to the Arab Emirates, to other countries to set up offshore accounts and companies. The UK doesn't want to lose corporate business. We, at the end of the day, we've in a way lost industry. So what we got left, corporate business. We don't want to detract it by making it more difficult. So it's finding that balance, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think in many ways we're in a catch-22 situation, aren't we? The economy needs a massive investment. We need more jobs in this country. We need more people working in this country because the benefits, bill is so high. and we've got over 1 million NEETs in the UK who are not in education or training, and so they need opportunities. And so you've got that on one side, and you're trying to invite in the right people to invest into the UK, and then you want to have processes and systems in place that people adhere to, that also respect health and safety laws, and more than anything, there's accountability at the end of the day.
It's all doable. The simple fact is, it's all doable, but it all comes down to money.
Something that you said at the beginning of the show, and I think you're right. I'm just going to digress for a second. We've been wanting rain in this country for weeks now because it's just not happening, and yet we haven't invested in new reservoirs. We haven't helped aid farmers through, to set up systems where they can continue growing crops by saving water. All these different things that you see in places like China and other parts of the world, where their farming is so successful and they're not worried about a drought because they've got systems in place. But again, people mentioned we're on an island, we've got seawater around us, we should be having desalination systems, which is also really, really expensive. And it all goes back to what you said, money.
Well, we are getting there. We are putting reservoirs in place.
What is that? Peterborough City Council?
No. As in, there is reservoirs that are now being put into place. You would have seen, if you go towards Glinton, there's those big pipes being put in. So there are reservoirs being put in for this exact reason, for future planning. We might be a little bit slow off the mark when it comes to some of this stuff. And this year's weather might say that we're very slow off the mark, for future planning when it comes to stuff like that. But we're getting there. The idea is that we've got to have the right moral compass when it comes to business, to health and safety, to treating people in the right way and making people believe that the law is on their side and that the laws are put into place in this country to defend the weakest or the most vulnerable as well. Not just corporate, not just business, and not just to protect people's money.
I completely agree with you. And I want to make this point carefully. Grenfell is not just about one company. It is not just about one product. It is not just about one council. It is not just about one refurbishment. It is about a chain of decisions, corporate decisions, regulatory decisions, political decisions, housing decisions, fire safety decisions, cost decisions. And somewhere in that chain, people living in social housing were not protected. That is why Grenfell still hurts, because many people feel the victims were failed before the fire and then failed again by the long road to accountability after the fire. And the most painful part of Grenfell is not just the 72 people who died. It is that so many people believe their deaths were preventable. And listening to you, Ishvak, this evening as well, you can't help but feel if there was the right cladding or the right safety before this happened, this wouldn't have happened. And look, we must still allow legal processes to take their course. Allegations must be tested, evidence must be examined, even individuals and companies must not declare guilty by a radio station discussion. But public concern is legitimate, and grief does not disappear because the law moves slowly. And the question I have for you, Ishvak, is that are public inquiries enough if they do not lead to accountability people can see?
I think public inquiries are important. We've seen some good public inquiries in history. We've seen some really bad public inquiries in history.
Yeah.
When they are skewed in a certain direction to follow a certain narrative which is unfair, then, they become invaluable. When they are truthful and they hit the nail on the head and they make difference in people's lives and change the law for the better, then, there's nothing else better than it. And the biggest thing about it, what we started off the show with, was about accountability, about public trust. And I think a public inquiry does that. But the findings from this public inquiry so far, say when we're talking about Grenfell, have put laws into place to try and protect people. Which is, so this is what I'm saying about tick boxing. We've put laws into place to protect people in tower blocks, say, but yet those laws are not being processed because they're still buildings with dangerous cladding. So after all of that, when you come back to square one, then people start asking, what was the point of it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So the whole point so far in politics, I would say, public inquiries is to generate that level of trust again in the system, but they don't always do that.
You, my friend, have hit the nail on the head, without a shadow of a doubt. Let's bring this first topic together then. According to the Guardian, shareholders received £23 million more in compensation than victims and survivors from Arconic. But the deeper issue is bigger than the number. It is about whether our legal corporate systems understand human harm with the same urgency that they understand financial harm. It is about whether companies can deny wrongdoing, settle claims, rely on insurance and move on, while families continue to live with grief. Ishvak mentioned about a local family earlier on. It is also about whether the phrase never again has actually meant anything. Grenfell was a test of Britain's conscience. Nearly a decade later, many people will ask whether the system has responded with justice or simply with delay, process and carefully managed responsibility. We're heading towards a break, Ishvak. I can't believe how quickly the first half an hour has gone. After the break, we move to Pakistan and the case of Imran Khan. According to reports, Pakistan's Supreme Court ordered medical access for the jailed former Prime Minister. He was taken for examination and returned to prison, but his family and party have challenged how that order was handled, and it has been a topic of conversation internationally and, of course, in Pakistan and for local communities here in Peterborough as well. And we'll be talking about his health and about the law and trust and power. So stay with us. Salaam Radio 106.2 FM.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Turkish Restaurant Peterborough. The name says it all. It's the restaurant in Peterborough that serves amazingly mouth-watering halal Turkish cuisine, including delicious kaneva and baklava desserts. At 1253 Borges Boulevard, Turkish Restaurant Peterborough's the place to dine with family and friends or order for collection to enjoy at home. Call 01733 307076 or view online at turkishrestaurantpeterborough.com.
Brighten someone's day through iCare Peterborough. Since 2021, we've supported local people through our Friday Food Hub, monthly community kitchen and our community hub offering food and personal care essentials. Want to make a real impact? Volunteer with us. Your donations keep this lifeline running. Email icare.pboro@ukim.org or call 07956 245 211. iCare Peterborough, growing kindness in our community every single day.
At Master's Pharmacy, we put your health and convenience first. We offer free blood pressure checks and blister-packed medication. With our free same-day prescription delivery service, you can have your medication when you need it. We also offer travel vaccinations, including Hajj and Umrah, along with other services to meet all your pharmacy needs. For more information, contact Master's Pharmacy on 01733 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
Need a taxi that won't break the bank? Amar Cabs offers safe local rides at affordable prices, starting at £3.99. Get to Heathrow for £120 and London Stansted or London Luton for just £88. Private school and executive business class drop-offs are also available. Booking is easy. Go to www.amarcabs.com and download our app on Android or iOS or call 01733 555 888. Wherever you're headed, Amar Cabs is just a tap away with reliable, affordable rides starting at just £3.99.
Thinking about opening a takeaway or growing your food business? Speak to Isaac Wholesale in Peterborough. We work with restaurants, takeaways and QSR brands across the UK, supporting them with supply, delivery, branded packaging and growth support. Our dedicated customer growth partners work closely with you, understanding your business and your goals. From first store to multi-site growth, Isaac Wholesale works as an extension of your business, helping you grow with confidence.
Whether you visit the Berry Furniture Showroom at 78B Fengate in Peterborough or view and buy online, you'll be amazed at the quality and style you could enjoy in your home. With beds from just £299 and complete 3-2-1 sofa sets from less than £1,000, you'll also be amazed at their wholesale prices too. Plus, there's a 1-year free warranty on sofas and beds, subject to conditions. Find out more, click on Berry That's BERRE furniture.co.uk or call 01733 300 517.
This is Salaam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio. Broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Welcome back to Let's Talk on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM. I'm Akeel, joined by Ishvak. Before the break, we discussed Grenfell and the disturbing question of whether the legal system values financial loss more quickly than human loss. Now we turn to Pakistan and Imran Khan. Let me be clear from the start. This is a politically charged issue. Imran Khan is a deeply polarizing figure. Some people see him as a victim of political persecution. Others see him as a former Prime Minister who must face the legal consequences of his cases. Our role tonight is not to campaign for Imran Khan. It is not to campaign against him. Our role is to ask, are legal orders being followed clearly? Are prison rights being respected? Is the process transparent? And does Pakistan's public trust its institutions? Let me know. You can call us on 01733 602 133, or you can text the show on 074 1111062, or comment on the live stream. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, so what's happened? Well, according to AP, Pakistan's Supreme Court ordered authorities to take Imran Khan from Adiala prison to Shifa International Hospital in Islamabad for a medical examination. The order followed months of concerns from his family and personal physicians about his health and access to medical care. AP reported that the court ordered Khan to be examined by a medical board including specialists and one of his personal physicians, Faisal Sultan. According to AP, the government later said Khan had been taken to hospital after midnight, examined by doctors including a specialist, a cardiologist and a physician, declared medically fit and returned to prison. But according to another AP report, Khan's family and party accused the authorities of violating the spirit of the Supreme Court order. They said he was taken to a government-run hospital rather than a private hospital designated by the court, and the government said this was because of security concerns after supporters gathered outside Shifa International Hospital. So again, we need to be careful. The government says the order was complied with and Khan was medically examined. Khan's family and party say the other order was not properly followed. The court order itself has become part of a wider political dispute. Now, in a country where trust is already fragile, and you know this from our previous shows, even a hospital transfer becomes a constitutional test. So my question to you, Ishvak, is this really about medical care, or is it about whether people trust the state to follow court orders when the prisoner is politically powerful and controversial?
You know, I thought about this earlier on when you said to me we were going to discuss this on the show, and I was trying to work out why, if someone's ill, you know, as a Muslim, say, and it's a Muslim country, if someone's ill, you have a duty to help that person, take care of that person. Even if it's your enemy, you have a duty to look after that person or help them in the best way you can from the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, right? So we have leaders of Muslim countries who are not following religious rulings when it comes to that kind of stuff, which is hurtful. So if the leaders then don't follow the Islamic teachings, well, how's the public going to follow them? Then it all becomes, like you said, about legal processes, about trying to... they're not fighting the Islamic rulings or laws, they're fighting judicial systems it's like chess. And I've seen it in Pakistan so many times. It's like a chess game. We're going to put that here, and what's going to happen with the result of that? And they just counter each other with chess moves, and it's tiring. And the problem is, some of the public love it. They want to see that, and they think, oh yeah, we got one over the other party, and the other party got one over the other party. But they forget the essence of what it's about. So for me, the establishment or the ruling party at the moment, for them, Imran Khan is probably a danger to them because he is popular with so many people. So is he dangerous to them, to their governance? That if he's let out in some way, he will threaten their leadership? Or is he a security threat that they are treating him in such a bad way? Now, they know that. Many of the people in Pakistan might know that. I can't answer that. The only thing I can say is that for me, again, it looks morally corrupt to not allow someone the basic human rights or treatments. Now, look, I'm sitting here, I'm not an Imran Khan supporter. My mum is, many other people are. You'll find people from my family that are on the other side, and there's family of members that are on the opposite side when it comes to this, when it comes to Pakistan. I mean, it's so emotive in Pakistan and people here. But sometimes it's the right thing to do. And when you look at historically, if I understand rightly, when Nawaz Sharif was apparently ill and was in prison, there was this contest going on, legal terminology and legal, upstanding each other in sense, to try and see whether he could go to a private hospital to get the treatment. So there was the challenges from the other side, but not to this level, because they wanted the right process and they thought he was faking it. Was he faking it? Because by the time he got here, he was fine. And by the way, he obviously left the country and came to the UK and stayed here for a number of years, during which time he said he was here for treatment, but he was fine. Is that their worry that he would leave the country? So there's so many questions, but the biggest question of all is what's the right thing to do? Now, if something happens to Imran Khan, and this is when I think, what is the ruling party's impact? What are they doing? The leadership of Pakistan, what is their mentality? They have no foresight in my, when I think about it, because should something happen to Imran Khan, should he fall ill or, God forbid, something happened to him in the hospital or in the prison, he's going to be seen as a martyr by many. It's going to cause an uprising or an uproar of a level that we probably haven't seen, which is in itself dangerous. So people who are enemies of that country would probably want that. The establishment won't be in a safe place. So rather than going to that level, this is what I said when I started off with, if people follow the Islamic teachings and rules of how you should treat people, they won't get into any of this bother.
I agree with you. For once. It's interesting something you just said there, because I was thinking about this recently as well. I was thinking, if he dies in prison, or if he dies, while he's getting treatment, something like that, you are right, he will become a martyr. But I think more than anything, the government has not factored in the fact that the people who adore him are from all walks of life. So the protests will be something that Pakistan has never seen before, because he's touched so many people's, whether they're male, female, young, old, they're bought into his vision. And I think those people who support him feel like he's been unjustly incarcerated, and therefore, they would use that opportunity to try and potentially change the political system. We've got some messages coming in. I can't read them all out because they're quite. They're not Ofcom friendly, but one I can take just a little snip from, and the person says it would suit many organisations in Pakistan if Imran Khan died.
It would suit them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can agree with that, because if he did, I think it would cause more of a problem to many of those organisations that you might be thinking of. Look, I've spoken to Imran Khan just probably a year before he was incarcerated. I was lucky enough to speak to him and this is when he was ousted from government, so he wasn't in power, but there was a lot of wrangling going on at the time. And I think I questioned, the thing I said to him at the time was, what can people around the world or here do to make people understand the situation? And what he said to me at the time is just keep building awareness, keep talking about the issues, which was a fair point. He didn't say, go out and riot and do this and do that and kick off. He said it like a statesman. He said it with a touch of care for the people in the country, which I respect. So in that sense, look, regardless of who you support, mistreating someone is always wrong, right? Yeah. And at the moment, I can't justify, and there'll be friends of mine who won't agree with me, but you know what? I will always, and I've always said that I will be brave enough to believe and say the truth of what I think and how it is, regardless. I mean, I've sat with the people in Noon League, the current party, and I have friends in that party, and they will tell me that Pakistan's never looked any better, better than it is now with the amount of investment and this and that. Another friend last week told me that the debt of Pakistan, international debt, has gone up double-fold in the last 2-3 years. So how are things getting better for those people? How are the most vulnerable, the poor, being treated, and how is life for them? Because at the moment, it's not great, right? So it's a very... Pakistan at the moment, although militarily is strong, morally, when it comes to justice and these kind of things, I don't know where it is, where it sits on it's teetering on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, you've made some excellent points there. I'm just taking a little step back, Ishi, to talk about whether this medical care situation should not only apply to Imran Khan. Look, every prisoner, it's what I'm taking from what you're saying, every prisoner has a right to proper medical assessment and treatment.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, but the argument is that, yes, they do, and the Pakistan current administration, government, are arguing, as Imran Khan government did during Nawaz Sharif's incarceration, that they should be taken to a regular hospital and there shouldn't be special treatment for one prisoner compared to any other prisoner. All the prisoners get the same treatment. They're in prison, so they go to the same state hospital, get the same medical attention they need. Why should they get, or one specific person get special treatment? Because if they do and they can afford to have private care, then any other prisoner can also, who can afford private care, will say or demand special care or private care, which doesn't happen in this country. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen in any other country. So I can understand the argument, but at the same time, when there's a concern about the treatment of said prisoner who is of significance, then I suppose the government, in my mind, should say, you know what, in this instance, because of the situation, yes, we're going to allow you to be examined by specific said doctor or your doctor or private doctor, because it reassures your followers that you're okay or you're in good health, rather than now a government doctor or employee checking him over and then telling them, well, these are his results, for them to then question them, which is what's happening now. So, or maybe they should have had both there at the same time, an independent doctor and a government one. And I just think there's no foresight. They don't plan ahead when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think you also touched the nail as well on the head there when you're talking about who he is. I mean, look, he's a former Prime Minister and he's got a huge political following. But I think the principle should be wider. If the court orders medical care, the orders should be followed clearly. And, and if the prisoner has serious medical concerns, they should be examined properly, with what you're saying as well. And if the family disputes the process, there should be enough openness to address those concerns. Look, a justice system is not judged by how it treats people or how popular with those in power. It's judged by how it treats people who are inconvenient to power. You like that one, don't you?
I do like that one.
I'll repeat.
I'm still waiting for it to set in, so say it again. Yeah, no, it's very good.
A justice system is not judged by how it treats people who are popular with those in power. It is judged by how it treats people who are inconvenient to power.
It's very good. That's too deep for today, but it's good.
Because you're nodding away, I know it's you're proud of that one, and I can tell. Look, we must also say this: the governments do have a duty to manage security. If large crowds gather outside a hospital, that creates a real operational concerns. I'll get that, no problem. But no responsible authority can ignore the fact that this could happen. But security cannot be vague phrase used to avoid security. I mean, essentially what they're saying is, we had to do this for security measures. It doesn't matter where he went. The people don't know. So why not? Why disclose where he's going?
Or when he's going.
Yeah, or when he's going. He could have gone to a private hospital or this other one that you mentioned, and no one needed to know. But when I saw I was watching videos and it was like, you know, I don't know, have you ever
Wedding
seen...
parade.
No, have you ever seen how the American, Chinese and the Russian presidents move? It's like that.
Oh no, it wasn't like that. The bits I saw, the clips I saw,
I was watching the extended version.
I was a little bit surprised with people. I suppose, look, they want to celebrate him. He has a big following, you know, so they're passionate. But in the middle of the night, people lining the roads and chucking flowers on police cars and vehicles or the convoy. For me, I was just like, you know, what's going on here?
What's going on here?
Right? So, yeah, that was a little bit weird for me.
Do you think it's because a lot of his followers are the average Joe, average person, right? And so for them, it's like, "What? I haven't seen you, I haven't touched you. This is one moment Imran Khan's going past me." It's just a show of affection.
Maybe, and maybe for him, they wanted to show him that regardless of what he's been through, they're still there with him.
Yeah.
And I suppose it would have given him some reassurance or some strength, maybe. If he did get to see those people, I don't know. Maybe he was in a different convoy going a different way. I don't know. But
I mean, like how Trump did the plane switch last week.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Again, that's 2 in a row, which is where is to show him, look, you know, you've been hanging in there, we're with you still. And in many ways, you could say this is genuinely still a threat for the establishment, whether it's political or the army. As long as Imran Khan is still alive, and his supporters will still feel like they've got a chance in the future to do something. It's hope, isn't it? Imran Khan being alive is hope.
For the followers of PTI, it would be, and for the opposition, it probably won't be.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, but look, I wish him good health, and I hope he does stay alive. And at the end of the day, it's written in Allah's hand. No matter what, man, no one can hit you with a stone if Allah doesn't will it. It's as simple as that. So no matter who tries to harm him, he won't go anywhere before his time. It's as simple as that. And regardless whether it's the whole Pakistani army establishment, whoever, without Allah's will, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I wish him good health, and it's a difficult situation. There's so much in the background that we, as a public or people sitting in the UK, don't know. What's good and what's bad. Only Allah knows. And so sometimes, like I say, it comes back to that simple thing of follow the Islamic laws of being good human beings, trying to do the right thing. And if someone is trying to do the right thing and you believe they're doing the right thing, then fair enough. Follow them and help them and support them. But corruption, we talked about corruption. We started the show about corruption and the issues. And it seems to be a growing thing.
Definitely.
And mistrust, public mistrust, whether you're in England, whether you're in Pakistan, Kashmir, it's a growing issue.
It is, and that segues into another avenue about this story. It matters because this sits inside a much bigger crisis. Imran Khan was removed from office in 2023 through a no confidence vote. He has been imprisoned since 2023 after convictions that he denies and describes as politically motivated. His supporters argue he has been targeted. His critics argue that he must face the law like anyone else. Now, we do not need to decide that tonight, but we can say this. Pakistan's institutions are under enormous pressure. The courts are under scrutiny. The government is under scrutiny. The military's role in politics is constantly debated. The prison system is under scrutiny. And the public is divided. Now, when a society stops trusting the neutrality of its institutions, every legal decision becomes political, every medical update becomes suspicious, and every official statement is treated as propaganda. So my question to you, Ishvak, is Pakistan's biggest crisis political leadership, or is it public trust in institutions?
I think it's leadership. I personally think is leadership. Yes, there is a level of mistrust, but then in one hand you'll have people that trust the establishment. In the other hand, whichever party is, you'll have people that don't. That's politics. But the leadership is the key thing. The leadership is the drive, the role, the vision for the country, and the honesty of the country, and the moral compass of the country. And if that phrase, Flanders, misdirects, then it all goes wrong. So for me, it's all about the leadership.
Okay, Majid has just texted in the show. He's asking, can Pakistan move forward while one of its most popular political figures remain in prison? That's a good question.
I don't think so, personally. And I'm not saying that, look, I'm not saying that Imran Khan should be released and be put into power again or anything like that. I'm not taking sides. But I think the people that follow Imran Khan are at a stopgap, or they're at the gate. They're going to stay there. They're going to follow him, and this issue is going to continue until one or the other happens, right? So the establishment, the ruling parties need to realise that and say, look, let's play on an open field. If there is something to say, if there's something to show about Imran Khan that they don't like, or there's something that we don't know, then bring it out. And if there isn't, then they should play on an open playing field, a fair playing field, and let the public decide, which at the moment many feel that they're not being allowed to.
Okay, and thanks for the question, Majid. Can both things be partly true? That leaders must face accountability, but the process must also be visibly fair.
That's the toughest thing in Pakistan, because when you talk
I saw
about
a smile on your face.
No, because look, at the end of the day, when we talk about accountability, how do you face accountability at the ballot box, right? But then if there's seen to be corruption at the ballot box, or a switch or sways or whatever you want to call it, then the trust goes as well. So how can there be accountability and trust when the whole system seems flawed because of corruption or mistrust?
Interesting. Okay, let's look at the Supreme Court's role here, shall we? According to AP, the Supreme Court ordered Khan's medical examination and allowed family visits and phone calls with his sons. The government then sought clarifications and raised questions about whether similar medical relief should apply more broadly to other prisoners. That raises an interesting point. If the government's argument is that prisoner medical treatment should be consistent, that is a legitimate point. But if the court gives a specific order, the public expects it to be followed in a way that's clear and transparent. So, a court order cannot be treated like a suggestion. If there are security concerns, explain them. If arrangements change, document them. If the prisoner is examined, make the process credible, like you've been saying, Ishvak. Again, we're not saying the government defied the court. The government says Khan was examined and returned medically fit, but Khan's family and party dispute the handling. That dispute itself shows the depth of mistrust, something that Ishvak has been alluding to.
Well, it's not just a mistrust. Sorry, just to touch on also, it's not just about the medical treatment. I would say holding a prisoner in solitary confinement for 7-8 months is morally wrong. It's against so many laws I can think of. Just that, and the impact of that, of the mental health of that prisoner is questionable because of those acts, right? So why are they not allowing family contact, or why are they holding him in solitary confinement for so long? And again, look, I'm not here as an advocate for Imran Khan or speaking against the ruling party. I'm just saying that it comes back to what I started the conversation with, which is, rather than it being a game of chess of who's winning and who's losing, if we go back to our basic teachings of how to treat human beings and what the right and wrong is, and if our leaders follow that, then hopefully we can see a way out. Because if we don't, or say in Pakistan they don't, then it's not looking good.
It's effectively a disaster that's going to be coming, isn't it? We're going to see
whichever way you look at
anarchy. Yeah, no, look. Let's be honest. Pakistan has huge challenges. It's got economic pressure. It's got political polarization. It's got security concerns. It's got institutional mistrust. It's got civil-military tensions, public anger, a young population losing faith in the system. And Imran Khan's case sits inside all of that. To his supporters, he represents resistance to a broken system. To his opponents, he represents populism, confrontation, and a leader who must answer legal challenges. But to the state, he represents a security and political challenge. To the courts, his case becomes a test of legal independence. And to the public, it becomes a question of whether justice is real or selective. So when justice is not seen to be neutral, even correct decisions lose credibility. And Ishvak, a question for you. Is Pakistan's problem that the law is too weak, or that people believe in the law is applied selectively?
I think the law in Pakistan is strong. The law is, some of it's derived from laws in this country, don't forget.
Yeah.
So the law and the judges, you see, well, I say that the law is strong. The people that uphold the law or use the law may be not as strong, because I've seen some questionable decisions made by judges in Pakistan who are supposed to uphold or, you know, go by the letter of the law, but they haven't. So it's not the law that is the weakness, it's the people that break it.
Yeah, I don't think I could have put it better myself there. You're absolutely right, and time will tell. I mean, look, we're looking at the next 5 to 10 steps in this scenario, and we can see that this is going to be a catastrophe. But Pakistan is a country that is definitely at crossroads. Look, we're actually approaching towards the end of the show already, Ishvak. Can you believe how quickly this show has gone? So just to wrap up this evening then, Ishvak, you know, according to The Guardian, Arconic was paid more compensation to shareholders than the estates of victims for Grenfell. Then we spoke about Imran Khan. According to AP, Pakistan's Supreme Court ordered the medical access for the jailed former Prime Minister. But we've discussed all that, and I want to end with this. Justice cannot only be legal, it must also be seen. Accountability cannot be only procedural, it must also mean something and be meaningful. And power cannot simply ask people to trust it. It has to earn that trust. So whether it is Tower in London or prison in Pakistan, the question is the same. When people suffer, does the system protect the vulnerable or does it protect itself? I just want to thank Ishvak for his thoughts this evening, and everybody who texts the show. We'll see you in a week's time. So you've been listening to Let's Talk live on Salaam Radio, 106.2 FM. Rewatch the